All right, welcome back to the EnerJ Cup. Boys and girls, one thing worth noting before we even touch the introductions here is that this is still a best of one, which totally sucks because these are two of my favorite Terran players in Europe right now. What a shame. But again, we find ourselves in Ultra Team Stronghold, a rematch of the IEM Sao Paulo qualifiers, where these two faced off on this exact same map. Now, there was a gentleman in chat named Covey who said pretty much exactly what I was ready to say. But I'll talk about it in just a second. Spawning in the top left corner of the map, playing for the team My Insanity. Give it up for Jjakji. And his opponent considered, in my opinion, one of the best Terrans Europe has to offer. Playing for Empire, spawning teal, it is Happy. Now, what Covey had said in chat is more or less paraphrasing what I was thinking in my brain as we were getting to the introductions here, where Happy is... Okay, well, first off, Jjakji, if you guys don't know, this I'm not even exaggerating when I say Jjakji has like a 95% win rate on Europe right now. Well, actually, I think it's closer to 90% because he had some weird ladder games yesterday. But seriously, he is like almost untouchable. One of the few players who actually takes games off of Jjakji, not like once in a blue moon, but actually takes games off of Jjakji is Happy. So in this TVT, God knows it could go either way, but it's weird to consider that you ever have Jjakji in a series in the foreign scene against a foreigner where you're like, wow, he might actually be the underdog. Now, he is really good at this game, and to simply count him out because he's lost some games to Happy in the past would be stupid, because Jjakji, one of the strengths, one of the things that makes you a GSL champion is knowing how to correct your errors. So, having lost against Happy many times, maybe he's changed things. The one thing about Happy that doesn't change, though, is that he opens the same way every game, every match, every single time. But even if you know your opponent's opener, it's Ultra Team Stronghold, this massively large 4-player spawn map where, as you saw at the start, announced any spawn locations go. Actually, a quick thing here as we get into this. A big part of why this map is a bit fickle is this base here. As we see, Jjakji did take that very early command center, but that's because he's able to. There's no risk. It's not exposed in the slightest. This one choke to the main covers both of these base locations. Now, Happy actually has a rather unfortunate spawn location in regards to Jjakji, as if he wants to take this base here, it's realistically never going to happen, at least if Jjakji plays this game correctly. So, Happy, of course, can be forced to expand southward, and it's going to be really awkward to defend because the ramps are not in the positions he wants them to be, and, of course, rocks. But, ooh, did the SCV die? It did. So I missed first blood, and I'm terrible. We'll pretend the next thing that goes off is first blood. Just barely missed the corpse. But yeah, Ultra Team Stronghold is a funny map. It's interesting, too, because not a lot of players are getting the most experience on this. When you watch your favorite streamers on Twitch, or whether you're watching tournament play, a lot of the times this map gets vetoed, and a big part of that is due to the fact that there's 20 bases on this map, combined with the fact that it is so freaking large. No watchtowers. Sensor towers are a big deal. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. And I actually like that Happy's gone for the full wall off here. This prevents any chance of a Hellion run by. Oh, you guys in chat. God damn it. Starports being, of course, open up here for Happy. He's going to have a Banshee come across the map. Jjakji's is, of course, going to be incredibly delayed due to taking the command center first. So he's going to absolutely need to make sure he's got at least Marine production, if not turrets down. Now, my fear is if he does swap the factory over in favor of getting faster Hellions out, of course, there's that wall off there. So getting Hellions to be useful will be kind of out of the question. And looks like he's going to do exactly that. So could be problems for him. Could be. Starport's coming out. I imagine it'll be a Viking before a Raven, but Happy's actually playing defensive with us. He's gone for the Viking first and instead making a siege tank. Oh. Hang on. Does another siege tank come out? If a second one comes out, this is the one base all in that BCQD would use rarely once upon a time. That I would rarely use once upon a time. Second siege tank coming out. This could still be defensive. We got to see if a Raven comes out of this or not. Lots of gas being taken, but no tech lab means probably not. Scans what's coming down here. Hides the tank at the very least, but of course he sees the tech lab still in the factory. So not scared of a Banshee. Will opt for one of his own. And looks like this could be a little more defensive and a Happy. So the thing I was getting kind of nerdy about, if you guys have never seen it, BCQD had like the sickest one base all-ins out of most players back in Wings of Liberty, even into the start of HOTS. And one of my favorite ones to watch for his TVT was like he'd go for a Raven, Viking, Siege Tank and push with it. Now, Happy looks like he's still going to push with the same composition. He's got the Siege Tanks. The downside of not having the Raven is it makes it a little hard to hold those air fights, but that could be relevant. He is just going to go for this one base attack, which... I thought it was going to be for defense, but Happy's going to push out. These Marines are going to be useless, but the tanks don't mind. The flames just tickle them. Banshee coming out is going to be critical, but Happy, of course, has Marines. He's got the Vikings. So a Banshee in defense here would be fantastic. And Jjakji's making the Raven, expecting a Banshee himself. Will he get his own Banshee out in time? Of course, the big thing for the Banshee is it kills the tanks, which is going to screw him if he doesn't get his own tank. Actually, no. Oh, no. Jjakji could be in for a lot of trouble, guys. He's going to have no real answer to this. And with 2 Vikings, that Banshee should never really touch the tanks, or at least kill them. Now there's a Raven out, but there's no point defense drones. This does not have covert reactor. There's no energy for a Seeker missile. And already laying siege into this. The only thing going for Jjakji right now is that Happy can't push up that ramp immediately. That being said, once he pushes up this ramp, oh god, these Hellions, he's trying to keep the reactor alive so he can get 2 more out. Forced to fight this. If he takes out the Marines, maybe then he moves on top of the siege tanks. Again, the thing about siege tanks is they're quite slow, so moving is not an option. Did the Banshee actually spawn? No. Jjakji forced to cancel it, knowing he would have lost it as the Vikings are camping the production line. Quite frankly, boys and girls, this could just be a build order loss for Jjakji. If he had a lot of Marines, he could have held this off. If he had a Banshee, maybe with Cloak, he could have held this off with a question mark. But with what he has, I don't know that he can do this. Vikings are even landing, takes out the tech lab, but of course there's a Viking coming out, not a... Oh god. Oh god, this is such a terrible situation. Forces coming from multiple angles. 3 siege tanks, though, a little too much, and Happy with the really strong all-in is going to eradicate most of what Jjakji has. Even if Jjakji holds on to this, which he will not, it's just workers left. He'd be left with nothing for a follow-up push. Looks like this 2 siege tanks go down, but another 2 are still standing, and Jjakji down to 23 workers. He's still mining happily thanks to that early command center, but he didn't have a tank. If he had a single tank, maybe he could have held this. If he had had a Banshee with Cloak, maybe he could have held this. But that's a big maybe, because of course Happy had 3 Vikings. And this one base all-in coming out of Happy, a little too strong, a little too good. And this makes me feel good, because I'm not gonna lie, guys, when I got Masters my first season, 100% of my TBTs looked like this. Oh my god, is he really gonna clean this up? I thought this was over. The tank's still kiting, gonna get more kills. He will clean this up. Jjakji is gonna hold. And actually, hang on, rewind about everything I just said. Because of this early command center, 20 workers to 26 is not that harsh of a deficit. If he gets a Banshee out, if he gets a tank out, further aggression from Happy will not be possible. But he has to get one of those 2 things out, and currently he has capability of neither. So Jjakji may have held that off for now. Oh god. Oh god, is he really still going to be in this game? Jjakji! Oh, you magnificent Terran. He's getting Cloak. He's getting Banshee. He's going to try and stay in this for sure. And he's not out of this game. But man, did that hurt. I thought with those last 2 tanks, he would have killed every SCV. But I guess between SCVs and 1 Hellion, tanks 1 armor is not that strong. I am so glad to be wrong about this. Holy crap. The caster got Jjakji'd. Yes, you guys are completely correct about that. I got Jjakji'd. Alright, now before we get too nerdy about this and too excited, well, Jjakji did hold. Again, he's not in a position where he's necessarily ahead in this game. Happy's made his own command center behind this. He's only slightly behind in that regard, but he's going to have a higher tank count for the rest of the game, unless Jjakji decides to go pure mech. I think mech might work out better for him, because I can't see him being too aggressive off this. He's already got the 2 factories down, and with his barracks floating, it almost says he has to be. Now, because of this, there's actually a big con that comes with it. He's going to defend quite nicely, but his army's going to be incredibly slow. And Ultrazeum Stronghold is such a big map. It actually takes so long to move your entire army across that by the time Jjakji's ready to lay siege to Happy's base, Happy could have easily dropped into the natural, into the main, and killed a lot. Game is currently stabilized, but not by... it could still really go either way with one bad engagement. Jjakji with a lot of Hellions. Can't push up into this anytime soon. Happy is in really no immediate danger. He's still got these Vikings, so the Banshee's not even that big of a threat. And of course, turret's down. We'll give him the vision he needs. Might pick up a tank or 2 here, force a scan at the very least. Just pulls him back instead. I think for Happy right now, he's just got to be like, wait a minute, I can't believe that 1 base all-in didn't end this, but what I like is that he expanded behind it. If Happy had never put this command center down, hell, if he didn't have this 3rd one on the way, that would have been like the throw of ages. But he's still in this, and so is Jjakji. Now, Armory's on the way. Jjakji's upgrade is going to be a little bit delayed, but that's okay, because for mech, typically you want bulk over upgrades. Upgrades are good, don't get me wrong. There's no player in StarCraft 2 who says, upgrades suck, you should never go for them. Except for maybe the Protoss in PvP. That's another can of worms. But in this matchup, upgrades are going to be nice to have, but not the immediate necessity. Now, for Happy, it's going to get a little weird at this point. He's going bio, which is going to be significantly weaker to these Hellions, especially once Blue Flame finishes up. It's going to be very easy for them to just move in and kill the entire bio army. That being said, Vikings are armored, tanks are armored, Marauders are armored, and they don't take any extra damage from that Blue Flame. So if he has enough of them in his composition, the Marines actually won't be that big of a threat, be threatened that much. Sorry, as I try and stumble over my words here. But Expanding Tank is third. Jjakji already landed his. Another command center coming down. What's really nice for Jjakji too, it's a lot easier for him to expand because he can just make a planetary fortress, and unfortunately, a planetary fortress deals with bio drops quite nicely. For Happy, however, not really afforded the same opportunity. Mech destroys planetary fortresses quite easily. I like this hit and run move here out of Jjakji, trying to get the most out of his Blue Flame. As you can see, Marines, of course, have very fast, constant, and consistent DPS, but not in a hit and run scenario like this. Blocking out the expansion here at the 4th, kind of a cute move with that Rax. And looks like Happy's going to try and move out a little bit. Jjakji, though, has so many tanks to defend with. As long as he doesn't leave anything unguarded, he should be fine. Now, there are 2 chokes here, guys. Sorry, double zooming out to show. There's high grass here. It's kind of hard to see because Jjakji has vision of the other side of it. If these air units go down, then he loses this whole area as far as vision goes. He'll have to burn scans or something to actually stay in the fight. So maybe if Happy with his superior air force can take off a lot of this. Well, actually, it's not even superior anymore. It's actually evenly matched, 5 to 6 Vikings. Jjakji actually has a little bit more, a little bit better. Hellions going to be quite nice for running around the long skirts of the map, so typically what you'll want to do is bring the Hellions here all the way around so you can sneak in behind your opponent because you know they're going to be moving through the middle of the map. Yikes. This game shaping up to be quite a game, I gotta tell you. I actually had a match versus a Masters player. I'm still like crappy platinum. I can't rank up. I give up on StarCraft 2. Played for 3 days, not Masters, immediately quit. But I had a game versus a Masters Terran player on this map that went on for like an hour and a half. It was pretty freaking ridiculous. So I can only imagine the mindset of these two right now, just like dreading perhaps a long game. But nice run by with these Blue Flame Hellions. Will get in here. And unfortunately, these SCVs will be torn to shreds, but there's not a lot of Hellions, so they do get cleaned up. I like the run by to the main 2 trying to split that off. But as we see, Blue Flame... 2 Hellions don't cut it. It's not like probes, it's not like drones. You need that 3rd hit to really fry up SCVs, who of course are going to have the bio armor benefit once that kicks in later too. Now tank upgrades all the way here for Jjakji is going to be really nice too, because this also benefits his air. For someone like Happy, he's going to have to invest in not only the bio upgrades, but as well as the mech upgrades. He has to put a lot of gas into his tech. Now that actually works out okay, because when you're playing bio like this, you don't spend a lot of gas. Most of this goes into Marines. It's mostly just mineral costs, and you have a lot of gas floating typically later on anyways. But he's got to get his weapon upgrades going for sure. Happy, that is. Tentative engagement spots, lots of scans going down. We'll probably see a lot of more orbitals come into the map eventually. Oh, drop did go off while this was going on. Starts looking in the middle of the map for that engagement point. Happy managed to sneak a couple tanks in here, but doesn't get too much done in the end. It does draw his army out of position, though, allowing Happy to move into Jjakji's 4th. This orbital will not live. There's too many Vikings here. He could try and go for a fight now that he knows that Happy's going to be somewhat sandwiched in, but Happy does pull back before he gets too dedicated. Too overcommitted to the wrong spot. Marines are not in a good spot. Going to try and do some damage to these Vikings, but losing full air control. Jjakji will take advantage in the home defense and send Happy packing. There's actually no anti-air here, so he's just going to lose both of these tanks in the retreat. There's 2 Banshees in hot pursuit. Leaves 1 to spare. So go home, tell your friends what happened this day, and don't come back. Meanwhile, double Orbital is going to be remade here. Man, I can't even... I love this. The back and forth coming his way now. Happy is going to set up defensively. He's got Marauders, but tries to stim in before the siege tanks are in siege mode. However, could not get there in time. Has to be very careful of the Vikings. Of course, he wants to snipe those Banshees more than anything else. The medevacs falling are not really that big of a threat. This isn't like your typical fight where you're going to be healing a lot of this up. These tanks are going to one-shot units in concentrated focus fire. But giving up ground constantly again and again, not something Happy wants to necessarily be doing, but has to do. He's going to have to set up a flank from the south if he really wants to take an engagement here, because to come head-on against Jjakji, it's simply not going to cut it. It looks like that's what he does. Splits his army and moves on forward. Hellbats will soak a lot of those hits initially. Tries to get him with the south, but there's just too many tanks, and Happy is going to break. Jjakji is going to kill SCVs. Oh, he's pulling them, I think, to sacrifice supply anyways at this point, but not that he really needs to or can. He needs to transfer this to that fourth base and get mining. He needs any production he can. He's holding against a desperately impossible force. Banshees are finally picked off thanks to the fact that their class fighters light. Tanks to the front lines. SCVs pulled into this, going to soak some of that splash damage, but Hellbats are going to do even better. The Vikings have landed, and Happy, good game, will go down. Jjakji will take this 23 minutes in on Ultraseam Stronghold and advance forward. Yikes.